You smile, I want you smile. I love you smile, I love you smile. Why don't you smile? We've been thinking about some positive changes. We need some positive changes. Thinking about some positive.
And now today's host, Imam Ezekiel Asher.
Assalamu alaikum, dear audience. We're back again at the Thinker live stream program. As always, we're engaging our resident Imam Ezekiel Pasha with questions and getting the benefit of his thinking and his take on current events that's happening in our community and the world at large. During our second program, I believe we'll hear from Imam Pasha, but I believe Sister Marsha has a question.
Well, alhamdulillah, praise be to God. Again, welcome back. And we pray God again always that He will bless us and guide us in our words and our intent to give good and nothing but good. And as we witness to God and we witness to His beloved Prophet Muhammad, the prayers and peace be upon him, he is God's messenger and servant and a mercy to all of humanity and all that will follow that traditional salute to Prophet Muhammad, the prayers and peace be upon him. Sister Marsha?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Imam. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
This week, you were invited by our New York State Senator Cordell Clear to Albany to do an invocation for the State Senate. She also invited you because they actually had a resolution regarding Juneteenth. My first question is, it was historic that you did the invocation at the State Senate.
Alhamdulillah.
And the second question is in regards to Juneteenth, if you can explain to our listening audience what is Juneteenth.
Yes, well, praise be to God, the last one first. Juneteenth is known as the celebration of the end of slavery, the notification of the end of slavery, the emancipation that was received in Texas approximately, I believe, 2 years plus after it actually was declared by then President Abraham Lincoln. They received it 2 years or so plus afterwards. And they received it on the 19th of June, and they began to celebrate, and that's where the term Juneteenth comes into play. And we, under the leadership of Imam W.D. Muhammad, may God continue to bless him in the highest stations of paradise for his good work, his mother and father and all the believers. In 1993, 29 years or so ago, he had made a suggestion to the entire associates of communities that were accepting his leadership that we should join in that celebration in our local areas. And when we went to look for it in Harlem, you did not really have an organized group that was celebrating Juneteenth. So we began to create it and start to celebrate it now for this will be the 29th year of doing so. And we celebrated with a parade through the community with multiple floats that carry the message of human dignity, of human respect, of the great contributions, photos and slogans of great contributions from the African American community to the world. Those contributions and reflections on all of the things that as Americans that we, not in America, but actually around the world, that we take advantage of and use every day in our everyday services, that it was the formerly enslaved who were great inventors and came up with many of these great tools that we use the day and don't identify the history that it was a person of African descent that actually did these things and made these things, created these things. So the Juneteenth becomes a celebration, and this year we will celebrate it here in Harlem on June 18th, which is a Saturday. That will kick off at 11 a.m. with the parade starting, the lineup of all the bands, and we expect it to be a little, much more bigger because last year the state of New York declared it an official state holiday, and also our federal government, the United States federal government, also declared a federal holiday. So we expect that we should have much more participation than we've had in the past, and we look forward to the educational components that we have when we have the Juneteenth. It's about building the business life, the educational life, the cultural life, and the political life, the governmental life. So we surround all of our activity around those key elements. And we were honored, as you mentioned, by our newly elected Senator Cordell Clare. I think this is the 32nd district, I believe, she represents. And she invited us to the state capitol for two presentations. One, an acknowledgement of Juneteenth on the Senate floor with the proclamation that you mentioned. And two, to invite me to the Senate floor to give the invocation. And I don't know if any other Muslims have ever did it before. I don't think they have. I was asked to do that and honored to do so, and we did. And we have heard afterwards that the norm of the Senate when the invocation is done is done and is there. But for whatever the reasons, as Senator Cordell Clare mentioned when she said that her staff reported that the Senate did something a little unusual, that the invocation that God blessed us to give, they tweeted it out on their network, and it's something that they don't normally do. If you ask me what were those words, I cannot tell you. I have to get it myself to find out, because it was just sincere effort, because I wasn't sure where the invocation, what it was going to be about. I thought it was tied directly to something with Juneteenth, so I was ready more to talk to that. But when I realized, no, it was a general opening of the Senate, then I had a few minutes to sit and think, as I always do, and pray to God and ask Him to guide whatever words He give me, that they make sense and that they uplift the dignity of that Senate, all its members and their families, and etc., to work to do good and nothing but good, really, for all people. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll get a copy of it, and we'll see what it said. But a great celebration, and we appreciate Senator Cordell Clare so much for her work. She's a very tireless worker, always have been, and now finally got elected to the Senate, and hopefully, God willing, will be re-elected to the Senate. We need to all make sure we get out and vote who's in her district, because she works for all the people in her district, and her district have different ethnic groups, different cultures, and what have you, across the span, and she's a very good representative for that. And we invite everybody who's listening to come in. People will be coming from out of state, and there's always different places to come join the Juneteenth celebration. As I said, the parade kicks off at 11, and we go to approximately 6 p.m. with a street fair, which we have different youth groups making cultural presentations. There are 3 different stages involved. There's vendoring. We're right there by the great historical Harlem Market, so you can come and get all your gifts for the year there also. So God willing, it'll be very, very successful, inshallah.
Oh my God. I was in attendance there in Albany, and I've seen some of the senators that were present. They appreciate the words that you had given on the Senate floor.
Very good, God. Yeah, one of them did caught me in the hallway, and I heard somebody say, "Imam, I know it was one of y'all," and I was like, "Who's coming?" This voice sounds different, and it was one of the senators just wanted to thank me in terms of that. Well, I said, "Praise be to God for that." You know what I mean? So, alhamdulillah. That's the leadership of following the guidance of God in our book, His revelation, the Quran, and the prophet, but we would not know of that had it not been for the sacrifice of the life of the Honorable Elijah and Claire Muhammad. And God favored them with their son, Imam W. Muhammad, who brought us to the Book of God in the proper way, in a way in which Muhammad the Prophet would have been teaching us. And we're forever grateful for that leadership and the love that they've shown us with their sacrifices. And we can do not less than to carry out to the best of our ability.
In regards to now, I want to talk about elections. Since we mentioned our Senator, Sister Cordell Clear. I know we've had conversations in regards to voting, but there are so many bills that are out there. As you always encourage people to read what bills we have there. But the importance of voting, and you mentioned about sound choices. As the bills that are, again, human rights, women's rights, civil rights, how do you explain to people the importance of voting, but also making sound choices, that these things affect their life locally, not just nationally?
Yes. Well, praise be to God. It's a very good question. But even in your question, you answered a lot of it, which is we're in a country that promotes itself as a democracy. And in doing so, it means, as it says in the statements, this is government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Therefore, it's saying we need people participation in it. And when you don't participate in it, then you're leaving it in someone else's hands to have the total say-so. So whether it be the local election for a, what do they call it, a district leader, or for the President of the United States, or for a governor, or for the Senate, or the Assembly, for a school board president, for the commissioners over the school boards, whether it be for any of those things that all of them have an impact directly, not far off, directly in your life. Judges, direct impact on your life. Principals of schools and what have you, direct impact on your life. Mayors and what have you, a direct impact on your life, because all of the departments under that mayor you have to go to for help. The same with the judges and police departments. And so all of these different offices are not without having a direct impact and influence in how your life is to be lived, with productivity or with the lack of services and etc. So that's what we should be in countering those who work to say voting doesn't mean anything, it doesn't count, and what have you. We need to be able to say to them, were you able to get, when your child got sick, was you able to take him or her to a hospital and get the services? Yes. Do you think that had nothing to do with not voting? The education your child is getting, is it a good education? Is it a bad education? Well, if you didn't vote, that had impact on it. Or the things we're experiencing now globally, but in our country in terms of shortages of different products and etc. You think that didn't have nothing to do with, if you didn't vote, then you had no say-so in making a difference. So your food on your table, your clothing you wear, how much rent you pay, how much mortgage you pay, how high the interest is, the services of sanitation that's available to you in your community. Every aspect of your life, development, and its success and productivity has a political connection. Therefore, as you said, when they have those who are running for office, you need to be able to gather the right questions and ask the right questions to them, whether directly or by written or whatever, and need to research their background, their history, which will tell you a lot about what they potentially will vote on or won't vote on, vote for or won't vote for, etc. And should be standard operating procedure in a place that is calling itself a democracy, which means you have the ability to choose. And those concerns that you have, there's going to be a political decision one way or the other on them, so you need to know who's going to be put in office to make those decisions in terms of that. So we should have no reason, and we can see how the importance of it was so much so that us as descendants of the former enslaved in America, on how they didn't want us to be participating in voting and what have you, and how they fought it all the way up to 1965. And even then, under the late President Johnson, they didn't give us permanency to the vote. It can be challenged every so many years. And right now, we're in an environment where that's being challenged.
That's right.
And what have you, who can vote, who can't be voting. Yet at the same time, they manipulate prison institutions in the smaller communities that if you went by the numbers of who lived in that community, they would not qualify to have an independent senator to represent them. They would have to be with another group. But because they have so many inmates living in a town, politically they manipulate to count them as numbers to where they can get a senator to represent them and all the things they need, because they got inmates sitting there who don't even have the right to vote. So again, this voting in America ties into everything: your clean water, or having no water, the pollution, or having no pollution, the ability to go out and be safe or not be safe. All of these major things for you, your family, and etc., your ability to travel or not travel, your ability to have access to good health or not have good health. This is a right that you have, but that right is tied to your right mind thinking and rightly going out and casting your vote, because a no vote is a vote.
That's right.
So you don't have any right to complain afterwards that your services are not there, and then we say, well, did you cast your vote? Even if you cast your vote and your candidate doesn't win and someone else does, believe me, the one who won is looking at you because you registered as a voter. He or she is not going to dismiss you and what have you when you call up, even though you weren't my candidate, but listen, I want such and such and such. Oh, they're going to cater because you did go and vote. But if you don't go to the booth, you don't take advantage of that right, you're your own worst enemy. And you're the worst enemy for the rest of us who participate. So no, and then again, study the candidates. They'll put names on things, study the candidate, look them up. Don't just go vote for a judge blindly. That says, judge, that's somebody can put your child in jail or put you in jail. You want to know what his or her background is, where they come from, what's what. So, and this is all the information is available. They make it available. They even print books on it and let you read some of it and give you enough to where you can say, oh, I think I better go a little further on this person. Let me look a little further. All right. So, again, this is a various time we live in right now, and as we have Sister Cordell Clare and the different things that are going on around the country, what they call gerrymandering, and all of these things to try to usurp your right to vote. They wouldn't be doing that if it didn't count.
That's right.
They're going around trying to make up laws to break your vote up, to narrow your community, to eliminate some people who you probably would vote for, etc. You think they're doing all that just for nothing? They want the authority. They want to have that position in order to hold you back. And if you don't see the seriousness of it and don't participate, when you get held back and treated differently, who do you have to blame?
Right.
Nobody but yourself. There's a lot to that, but your question and how you gave it, you really gave a lot of the answers. But yeah, get out and vote. It makes no sense not to. I mean, the polls are all near you, by you, and close, and ain't like you got to travel a whole lot of places to do it. Just you need to do it. And at Juneteenth, I'm sure we'll have a lot of material out, and a lot of political people will show up because of the uniqueness of how they did things. In the Senate, they moved the date or something to where for the election was supposed to have been, I think, in June here,
yes.
And they moved it because of somebody challenged something in the courts. They'll tell you about the judges in terms of who that judge favored one way or the other, and so no, you got a life that you didn't have before, particularly us as a people, and now you have the full ability to participate in that life. Why are you lazy about it? Why are you letting them give you a market scheme that takes you out of it and tell them, I ain't gonna vote, I ain't gonna do nothing. And then when the landlord raises the rent beyond your capacity to pay, and then you're looking for somebody to what's name, say, well, and the person who's elected said, look on their chart and said, did you vote? Well, that's why he or she is doing that. You didn't speak up when you had a chance to speak up. A vote is speaking up.
Yes.
A vote is saying, just as a person you can stay there and say, well, I ain't going to vote. Well, that's a voice. You made a voice. So now one said, no, I'm going to vote. That's a voice. So you neglected your voice. So you say, I ain't going to vote. Then that's a voice that just came out your lips and fell to the ground. But you say, I'm going to vote. That voice traveled up like a bird with wings.
Yes.
So alhamdulillah, vote. Take that much. You ain't that busy. Maybe busy, but you ain't that busy. So get undizzy and get busy.
Yes,
Inshallah,
yes,
God
yes.
willing. Yes.
Brother Philip mentioned in the first segment in regards to guns. I want to speak about children, our children in particular, and all children in regards to guns that they may have access to, but the community not having alternative things for them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Could you speak to that, Brother Imam?
Yes, that is a great point, and that's what I think. There's some political people trying to do something, but I think their programs they're putting together is from reactionary rather than looking long-term plan. And the long-term plan is when you're dealing with children. You mentioned the children. When you're dealing with children, the fact that they're children means they're high energy. They need to be kept active. And if you don't bring to play to them the activity that is positive, then they're going to get in activities that is not positive. Whatever's available, there goes. So if you make positive activity long-term plan, you know they got a certain amount of time in school, certain amount of hours, then after hours you should also make a continuation of activity that will keep them positive. And certainly when it comes down for the summer recess or break and what have you, you should also have activity so that they can enjoy themselves, but at the same time, any activity should be giving them knowledge worth learning and building their lives stronger. So there's a need for economic situations. So you create economic situations where the young folks can make a living and start to get into the world where they're going to have to work and what have you. But at the same time, the work that you're giving them knowledge, but also enjoyment at the same time. So where some of the older ones, you may have them now teaching some of the younger ones. And you have multiple trips to see this New York State, to see this state. This state has some beautiful things that our children never have a chance to see. Unfortunately, because maybe the parents are not having wherewithal or this, that, the other, that they don't travel. They don't travel outside the 4 or 5 block radius. To be able to get them to go up and see the mountains and see the trees and spend some time out there, etc. So activating all of these programs that I knew of that kept us out of a lot of trouble, Cadet Corps, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. Now, I know they got a bad rep now, name and this, but that does not take away from what the learning was and what actually you did and what have you. Get the wrongdoers out of there, the ones who were taking advantage of children, get them out of the picture. You don't kill a good program because these fools was in there. You get them out of the picture, prosecute them, what you got to do with them. But the concepts of what was being learned for life, for generations that you know, that's useful. The knowledge was useful, no matter what. I still remember some of that things there because they were useful in terms of that. So having that long-term ready to go and not shortchanging the budget to making sure that their education continues and that the kind of education that continues outside of the normal school year is also stimulating the desire to work, the desire to learn, and etc., and have the enjoyment, have learning as an enjoyment because you're achieving something. So in those activities of the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts, this and that, they learn to be in bands and how to hike and how to find survivals and all of these things here was knowledge that'll be with you for the rest of your life. What have you. So they need to have and need to make sure these people we elected and what have you that you don't just react at the spare of the moment because some crisis happened. No. Plan this long term so that every year there's a budget for every child and every what's name to have opportunity, if their parents are not taking them somewhere to do something, that they have a chance to travel outside of America, but also to travel. Many of us have lived in New York City and never been to the Statue of Liberty. Never been to the top of Empire State Building. Never been to certain things. I remember I was a little young guy, and it was an unfortunate situation, but they took us on a trip. One time it was to the Hilton Hotel on 6th Avenue, and took us up to the penthouse to see, I think Jerry Lewis or somebody was in there at the time, and that was exciting for us in terms of that. And then to see this big old penthouse, all these things here, well, that gives you some drive. So listen, I'd like to have this too, you know. So it gave motivation in terms of, listen, this is here, this ain't got to be just for you. That's what it took. So this ain't just for the person here, but you too. You're doing industry, learning this work, getting this knowledge, so forth and so on. You know, the trades and skills for young men and what have you. All of these things here, taking them from state to state, on trips and what have you. These are the things that there should be money always available to have the children active to where they ain't got to stay in that 1 block radius and be smothered by the ignorance of gang life.
Right.
You know, take them out of there. Give them a chance. You know, and in terms of you have a culture of guns and weaponry, well then have them go to the camps and learn how to do these things proper. Learn how to use a bow and arrow. Learn how to chop a tree that needs to be pruned or something. Learn how to do some agricultural and what have you. Working with the cows and what have you, and then chickens and you know all these things here that just is nature and it stimulates the learning in a child. Give them those things. So don't go into the rifle range and learn how to be safety with these things and what have you. Don't hold it back from its reality, but give it to them in that way to where they ain't got to experiment for themselves and get some bootleg gun from somewhere here, there, and what have you, and next thing you know they in crime or they shot their brother or their sister and so forth and so on. No. So these were standard things that politically wise, in budgets and rules, this is what you should increase. You should increase just New York State is a big state. Just traveling throughout this state and camping out and doing all these things, that is a whole other world. I remember it. When I was in the Boy Scouts and I first went to 10 Mile River, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Took me upstate there and all that, the farms and all this jungle and all this other stuff here. What the heck? But they prepared us. They taught us classes and stuff, you know, how to do this, how to start a fire, how to maintain it, you know, burn down the whole daggone state, you know, and how to filter the water and looking out for this kind of animal and catching this and fishing, you know, and bull riding and swimming in Hudson River, where the Hudson River up there, you can see to the bottom. The Hudson River down here, that's another story. But, you know, in terms of that, I mean, it was like, you know, wow. You came back to the city, and really you had a sense of, I don't want to live here no more. It's too overwhelming. I'd rather be up there. You know, it seems like I'm more closer to life. Like we have our camp in Randolph, Virginia. We have 130 acres of land. Every time we take the children from the city and take them up there for that 2 weeks, the first 3 days, they are homesick and messed all up in the head because we take phones from them. We take all these things. You cannot use anything here. You have to look at the natural creation that God made and engage it at night and day. And after 3 days, it takes 3 days. That's most it takes, 3 days. After 3 days, when the 2 weeks is up, everybody's crying because nobody wants to go back to the big city.
That's right.
They want to know, can we stay one more week? Can we what's in, which is a great thing. It speaks to the human heart. So children are ready. They're ready to learn, but give them an environment that will do so. So they need to have a big budget that's tied into the school curriculum budget itself. That the after-school piece is a learning piece to go all these historical sites and universities they can go to and things like that to travel. When they come back, they have a more better sense of maybe what they want to do with their lives and what have you. You know, so it's very important, very important. And I hope that the current mayor, I hear some things, but I don't like what I'm hearing altogether because it's too much reactionary situation. It's too much you you shouldn't be battling with certain things. You have the authority to do them, do them. You know, you have the authority to do them. And those enemies in media who got their own agenda, the what's name, do them like some of the other ones did, just to ignore them and keep going. And when they come to their senses and when they ask the right kind of questions and the right kind of thing, then fine. If you don't, have a good day. That's what some of these other politicians do. They don't pay them no mind at all. Matter of fact, they condemn them and call them all kinds of situations, which is another story. They got another agenda, but, you know, yeah. So I hope more and more is done. And we in the Muslim community, we have a great deal that have to do. I mean, we got, like I said, we got our camp, but we know our children, the amount of children that should come and parents should come and participate, it's just not there. It's just not there. Because they stayed in that 4 or 5 block radius. They didn't go outside of that 4 or 5 block radius. And now they hand that same attitude to their children. You get, if you take 90% of those children out of that block, there'll be nobody there to give them a crime, to try to make them go do crime, because they won't be there. There won't be a whole lot of gang nothing. Get them out of there. You know, take them like they do with the Job Corps and what's the other one they call? I forget, so many of them, where they send them to different countries. They can see really how things are. What's the name, and appreciate that block they in, and come back, be sweeping the floors and scrubbing the streets, you know, kind of thing. And even the whole sanitation thing. That's part of the program should be the sanitation department. Got to take them with the trucks and everything. You know, young men and women too, young girls too, but on those trucks, and it should be a whole it should be nothing in New York City that you don't have a program that children are not attached to for summer. Work with the sanitation department, work with the Parks and Recreation, work with the maintaining park, work with police department, be part of the fire department. All of these 200,000 departments we got, health and hospital, all of that, and the candy stripes and what have you. I remember there was a time when they'd get you into the candy stripes and learn how to see what nurses and doctors do and what have you, you know, and got stimulated a little pay to be able to save for school and other things too. That was what you're supposed to do. That's where the budget's supposed to be, and what have you. And that's why I encourage our political people, that's what you need to be putting forth. That is mandatory that those things, all of these folks, take all of these children and everything else and network with other states and what have you, nearby or close, whatever it is, to where you do that with them too, so you change all of that, and other countries and what have you. Go to all of them. Do it. And the amount of money you spend will be nothing for the value added to the children's psychic, mind, and soul. So that's how I see that.
That's right. They say it changed their mind.
Oh yeah, it changed mine. I ain't went nowhere but 10 Mile River. You know, yeah. I came back. I didn't want to come back to the city no more. You know, it was like that. I mean, it was just joy, but you didn't want to come back.
That's right.
You know, you didn't want to come back.
Gotten the feedback, as you mentioned, from the children that have attended the campus, the former students and others who have attended our Claremont School summer camp. With that being said, now we're talking about community. So now that you mentioned about us having activities for our children, that's where the community comes in. So how do we, I'll use the word stabilize our community so our children will not be involved in these type of activities, besides, like you said, making sure they're in these programs. So with the voting, that's part, with having programs for them, now community. This is where the community has to come together, and it has to be a something concrete, as you mentioned, that has to be done in order for these things to be stimulated and enforced.
Yes. The issue a lot of times, unfortunately for us, is we operate under crisis, and that's not the best way to formulate any kind of program, where a crisis has come, and now all of a sudden, like this killings, you know what I'm saying? There's a crisis, and everybody running around. Well, that's too late. They say too little, too late. We need to be proactive. And I hope and pray that this community of ours, this Muslim community of ours, and now the multitude of different Muslim groups who have immigrated to America, that we can find some common ground. We have difficulty doing so. Some common ground of sharing knowledge to where right here in Harlem, right here in 116th Street, and this radius from Morningside Park all the way to the Harlem River Drive, East River Drive, and what have you, which includes of all kind of young folks, that we go out from this masjid and send out emissaries to talk to all the political representatives that represent that whole area and see if we can find among them who they already got as leaders and have a meeting with all of us and say, how do we get our children to activate in this community, in that radius there, to work together for maintaining the businesses in the community. We give stimulations to where those businesses will have them working in there, the sanitation, like I said, cleaning the streets, doing all these things. But I have to invent some kind of, what they call it, some kind of other outside entity to come and clean, but that's part of what they will do. And you can carry it on through the summer, and they get paid and everything else, and in between that, even all of them going together and enjoying some of the great parks that we have and other activities. You got Randall's Island right there that they have renovated and did everything to. It seems like our folks don't even go there no more. I see they've been bringing folks from all over the place, but that's right in our neighborhood, you know, I mean, in terms of that. So these kind of meetings that I'm going to ask the committee under Brother Dave Rasul, we're doing the Juneteenth, which that should have been reached out to all those communities to join us. And it ain't isolated. One person's freedom is the same freedom for everybody else. So, because it's Juneteenth and it's celebrating the freedom of the former enslaved in America, if you've been enslaved anywhere, come join us. This is not isolated to our Latino brothers and sisters can't come join us, even though they have a parade, a celebration for the different Latino groups. Well, I'll go down there and join you, and join in with you, you know. And that's where the thing comes at. And I'm just joining with you and learning more about you and your culture and such, and you're joining with me to learn more, so that we don't have these cross rivalries.
Right.
You know what I mean? We don't have these cross rivalries that create this trouble or fitna in terms of gangs and all that. What it says, let's get to know one another. Let's get to know the appreciation, the best of what we are. And you can cut down on a lot of this by knowing each other and what have you. So I would like our community to hear and ask them to, let's reach out within this block of our brothers and sisters where we have a strong African presence, brothers and sisters directly migrating from Africa, from different parts of Africa too. So one African can't claim it. We got to watch that too, that one African group will claim I'm the one. And oh, don't do that. You know, don't fall into that trap. That's the trap of the devil, and that's the trap that's caused the problems in Africa. You know, no, we're one human family, and we're one people, and we have a cultural identity. And let's build on the best of that cultural identity, and that's not to go into tribalism and let tribalism and hatred dominate us. You know, let's go past this. And I have worked on this from the time I have been asked to be imam, now going on 30 years or so, to break that. Say, no, you know, let us, and praise be to God, myself personally, I broke that, and they all know me in terms of that. You know, I will not play one African against the other. I won't do that, you know. But you got those who specialize in that, and it's to their advantage, and unfortunately they do it even in countries as to why the countries are having the problem they're having with each other. So that's the kind of thing that I'm praying that we will be able to do, and even the ones of the African brothers and sisters who from Africa directly, who we have helped get into government. And here again, we help them get into government. We have opened the doors. We've used our ability to get them in there, and then they turn around and come like we, you know, this is sickening. This is a problem, but we have to address it. So all of these things here in terms of cooperating with each other for the security of all of us. For the security of all of us, and what have you. Because some horrible things are happening to our brothers and sisters. Their families come from Africa now that are taking the religious ideology and everything that they have is being robbed, taken from them, because they falling into the trap. Same thing with our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, the whole 9 yards. This attitude of I'm over here, you over here. Hey man, excuse my language, they had us all as niggas. What's wrong with you? Care which one you come from. You want to highlight Jamaica, you want to highlight Trinidad, you want to highlight Haiti, you want to highlight, I don't know, you know, I can't name a Caribbean thing, but y'all know what I'm talking about. And you have an attitude that somehow you better than me. Well, if you got something better than I got, why don't you share it with me and help me out? Simple as that. But right now, we're all in the same pot. you know, and let us find a way to do that right here. Let's find a way to unify for the sake of our youth.
Yes. Yes.
For the sake of our youth, because as you said earlier, the youth, in terms of having no sense of regard, of sacred regard, for respect for elders, for anyone in terms of that, and how can they come out of a school system and that's not part of the curriculum? That should be part of the curriculum. Respect for your parents, respect for your guardians, respect for those who represent respect and authority. What's the name? That's part of this should part of the whole school curriculum. And if it's not, then that's why a teacher is disrespected, he or she in there, and having a problem. And then take the attitude, well, I get paid, let them sit here and be dummies, they ain't gonna disrespect me. And that's what I said Senator Cordell Clear was strong on before she became senator, running into those schools and fighting for the rights of the students and the parents to be involved and so forth and so on. And she was very successful in doing that. When they were going to take the schools over, split them over, have a charter on one side and this on the other side, it was illogical. You're saying you're going to put a private, semi-private public school here with these teachers in the exact same building, I would say split it down the middle, and then the general public ones over here, and these over here get a better education than the ones right down the hall? What kind of logic is this? What are they getting over here that this one over here is not getting? What is the skills of this teacher as compared to this one over here? That says volume. It didn't make sense. You know, but greed, dominance. When you're a weak community, do what they want to do. That's why we need strong leadership like Senator Cordell Clear, and you must put her back in office, no matter how much they change the dates and everything else to try to usurp it. And the same for our council matter people, and being involved with the community boards, all of these things, all of us, and pulling our young folks into it and having them there at meetings, etc., and what have you. You need to do this, because you're not going to be able to protect your children unless you change the environment of the whole community that will look out for your children, as we did have. Even though we was under enslavement, the whole community had a sense to know that we had to look out for them, because there were those who would come and rape, rob them, steal them, kill them, and everything else. So everybody had a sense of looking out for where's Judy, where'd John go, so forth and so on. Now, he didn't come past my house today, and immediately the hunt would go to find out where he's at, because he knew something is wrong. This is the route they're supposed to take, so forth and so on. So let us get back to those good, that good, honest, sincere thinking and love for our families and children and our neighbors. And I hope that something will happen out of this Juneteenth, and something of an invite that we will come and join all these different cultural celebrations, to be invited and join them in their celebration, because we're one human family, one humanity, and we're just looking for dignity. And we can join you in what is moral, what is dignified, what respects the life of the human being. We can join you in that. If you call us to a weed smoking party, a drinking, what's the name? No, we can't join you in that. We're sorry to hear that that's what you do. We can't do that, but we will join you in your best self. We're glad to, you and your children, inshallah.
Now I would like to speak about our annual convention in Eastern Michigan, because all this ties in, again, with the community. Inviting those who would like to participate, but speaking to what the Imam, what was the importance that the Imam put on for us to be in Detroit, be in, because of history, but just his message of the community life, the 5 areas that he asked us about.
Well, praise be to God. I know time we have spent on the first, what's the name, so I'm going to probably make it the second one. You're talking about convention, we have a call that's been coming up also that we have to go on preparing for that. You know, there's a lot to say about that, the town of Inkster and the toil and struggle that we've had now going on 8 years, not with the people as much as with the government there. And the government of predominantly on the front side, African-American people from that community, but on the back side, there are enemies behind the scenes that influence them to look at us as outsiders and to attack us from basically doing good work that served all of those political people out there. None of them got into office once the state when we first got there, the state had control over that community. None of them got into office without coming to us and asking for our wisdom on how to run for office and the use of all our properties that we had owned at the time in order to promote them going into office. Every one of them. There's not one there that did not put signs on our properties, did not come to our school and have meetings and what have you. We made it available to them. There was no financial charge or anything like that there in order for them to be elected, all of them. And yet, again, after getting into office, this is where you have to check, getting into office, some other influence took them over, and they somehow made us the enemy. And we have been battling with that since. But we dare, based on what you have said, our leader, Imam W. Muhammad, gave to us in his last address at the 2008 convention, the year in which he passed. And he mentioned the significance of Detroit, Michigan, in terms of our overall history and how we came to the doorway of al-Islam proper. That is the knowledge of our holy book, the Quran, and the life of Muhammad, the Prophet, the prayers and peace be upon him. And he presented to us the significance of us always, we must have a present here. We must keep a present here because our history started here, and we don't want to lose that. And during his years, the 30 years of his leadership, he focused on Detroit a tremendous amount of time, making sure if he wasn't there, some assistant or someone was there, always addressing the people of Detroit in terms of that. So us now being following that and trying to maintain some presence there, we wind up in the small town of Inkster, Michigan, which also had a very long history of the African American population being actually relocated there under the offices of Mr. Henry Ford, the late Henry Ford, in terms of him needing the African American workers. And they were living in the city, which was a little distance from them, and the kind of racist attitude in that semi-suburb that made it dangerous for them to travel and what have you. So he engaged this town called Inkster and set it up and began to move the African American workers closer to the plant so that they would be able to be a little more safer, and that's part of the history of this town. And we're there. So the unique history of this town speaks to our overall history, and we got there to this town not by us looking it up and knowing it and what have you, but obeying the leader and looking to do what trusting the leader to stay there in Michigan. And in short, we wind up at this place, which is uniquely a perspective that the Imam would have loved, would be participating in, would probably have moved there and one of the houses we have and everything else to make sure that we were successful with the facilities that we have. So that's why we're there, not by our choice, but by the leader telling us that we need to maintain. And it's been a struggle and not a lot of help from our community and overall community for those who say they're in his association have for the most part ignored what he said, and a small group of us is the one who stayed to do it. So now we have the convention there. The annual convention is held there based on what the Imam said. This year, again, during the Labor Day weekend, where we normally have the conventions, because the Imam said he chose that day because he wants to know we need labor. There's a lot of work to be done. So we have a tremendous amount of activities and what have you. But before we get to the conventions, there's a lot of work that has to be done. We have these facilities, the school facility, and it has so much great potential that if those who claim to associate with the Imam were to step up and bring their skills and what have you, this would be a very centerpiece for our growth, development, and a dignified expression for all of us in terms of community development and following leadership. So this year, again, we're there, and we invite those of decency and good mind who want to know more about Islam those who say they associate with Imam to come and bring your best self, bring your best ideas for growth and development of building that school that we have, which it has 80 or so classrooms, an auditorium, 1,000 seat, a Olympic-sized swimming pool that we need to put together, full gym that we use now back and forth and can use for multiple places, and then an outside situation which gives us a football field, a baseball field, track field, tennis courts, all the great stuff is there, and we have the facilities. There are those who try to manipulate the facilities from us through wickedness and diabolicalness, but we are meeting those challenges and what have you, as we had to do the whole time we've been in this town. But praise be to God, we stick because we didn't put ourselves there. God guided us there. We did not know about this town, and we're clear on God guided us there. And as our prophet Abraham said, alayhi salam, that the one who created me is the one who will guide me. And we're following that guidance, and we're following all the way through. So we need a tremendous amount of help in terms of people with knowledge and skills and all the trades. We have a major roof issue that we're dealing with right now, but also educators to continue to expand that school with all the education 24 hours a day, as far as I'm concerned, like Master Imam Shabazz, that I have invited the committee, the people here, that this mosque be open 24 hours a day. Why not? Night classes, this class, all kinds of 24 hours a day. The mosque should be available for the folks. They have not stepped up like that. I don't know what the mindset is, but I have invited them to do so, to keep the mosque open 24 hours a day. They cry about just having somebody to have those security up to 6 o'clock at night. This makes no sense to me from the Nation of Islam days, and that great experience that we had there. It was open 24 hours a day. Someone was here. So the situation that Philip mentioned earlier that he had we had our 24-hour presence here, it would have been known and set that, this is not the place for that. But because you're not treating it as the sacred place that it is in history and in this community, and the lack of the zeal and enthusiasm, and the lack of bringing your young grandsons and your granddaughters and your children and your nieces and nephews to be part of this, is why it's failing in terms of that. But we're going to keep moving. We trust in God, and we'll keep doing what we're doing. I ain't but one man, but I'll keep doing the work that I do, and I'll keep inviting you to all that is good. So that's where we're at with that. And the educational banquet, all these things we do, the jail ain't no good, all of these things we do are to the broader community, and that's where we got to reach to, this broader community, because we have a message, and our message is solid. It uplifts the human life. It brings dignity and health and friendship and good things to you and what have you, and we will keep doing it. And our convention is one of the areas that we continue to do, and we will build on it, God willing, inshallah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Brother Imam. That's the information I had.
Mm-hmm. Philip, you had something before I read, or go ahead?
Just, in the Juma, you had said, and I'm just paraphrasing because I can't say it the best way you said it, but you said, we go to Allah, which for us is the book of the Quran and the life of Prophet Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Allah, you said it 3 times. Allah, the book of the life of Prophet Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Allah, the life of Prophet Muhammad. Could you comment on, even with such, just those two, there's a world of clarity, there's a world of guidance, and I can't, if you look at it closely, you can't use all the guidance that's in there. You can't. It's just so much.
Wow.
And even with all that, there's still individuals, because I had an encounter with somebody who said, well, what sect is it? What? Which, the 7 different sects, which sects do you guys have? We say Quran, and they're still looking for something else, something. Could you just comment on it as to why they're so confused, where something's so clear, something so crystal clear, you can draw from the sound and good, and yet you still want to go run after frustration, confusion, and heaven.
Right. Well, that's the work of Satan. That's why we say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. We seek refuge against the wicked one, the underminer, the one who has declared mankind to be his enemy, Shaitan, before we go into the words of God in our book. You like Muhammad the Prophet, the prayers and peace be upon him. You remember he spent 10 to 11 years appealing to the good consciousness of the people. These were the same people that his entire life, they knew him. Some relatives, but the whole town knew him and his character. So much so that they called him the truthful and trustworthy one. As a matter of fact, so much so that when, in that time frame, a lot of travel and things like that for business that they would do, their valuables, they would come and give it to Muhammad, the prayers and peace be upon the Prophet, before he was missioned as the Prophet, because they knew he was the most trusted among them, and that he would, their goods would be as safe as we do today, say with a bank, and what have you, but even more safer. But when he declared al-Islam and declared his mission, none of that had any value. They so much so that they killed him, his followers, and those who would accept them, and did horrible things to them, starved them, everything they can think of to stop him from simply declaring there is but one God, and I am the messenger of God. So bringing it up to date in terms of not only in al-Islam, but in the other Abrahamic faiths, some of these same things have happened to where you had it from its original presentation by Musa or Moses, I'll say, and the original presentation by Isa and Maryam, Jesus the Christ, son of Mary, and the original presentation by Muhammad the Prophet, son of Abdullah. Okay? That after them, the rabbis did what they wanted to. Peter and Paul did what they wanted to do. And after the Prophet, after the rightly guided, they say caliphs, you came up with all of these schools of thoughts, all of these hadiths, and etc. And even though the Prophet, in his time, documented in his time, these words, that I leave you two things only. I leave you the book of God, the Revelation, the Holy Quran, in which I gave to you, and I leave you my life example, the Sunnah. And if anything is contributed to my life example, my Sunnah, that you cannot find in the Quran, I neither did it or said it. Now, what would normally follow that is khalas. That's the Arabic firm of I'm finished. There ain't no more to talk about here. You know, not another word other from you. You know, that's what khalas. That's it. There's no more. It's over with. I don't hear nothing else. This is it. So now the enemy of mankind infiltrates and starts to highlight 100 years afterwards, so-called hadiths and things put together. Are there some authentic hadiths that we can say yes, because we can go to the Quran and see that the Quran signs off on what you're saying Muhammad the Prophet said or did. That's how you got them. Sometimes refer to some of the ones that, like the 40 hadiths, would have you say, well, these are sound. But there's so many hadiths out there, and again, others have used it and walked away from to say, whatever I'm giving hadith, can you find it, as the Imam Fadri experienced out in Brooklyn when he went to go to a masjid because he couldn't get here when he was visiting from Buffalo, and he went there and he seen the brothers all in, kind of dressed all in white, but you know, okay, alhamdulillah, you know, all white. And when he went to go in, they hand him a white kufi and say, you have to put this kufi on, but since you got the pants on, you got to roll your pants up 6 inches. And he simply said, well, okay, where is it says in the Quran that, one, that I have to wear the kufi, and two, that I have to roll my pants up 6 inches? And the brother said, that's hadith. He said, I heard what you're saying, but I'm asking you, is the hadith an authority over the Quran, or is the Quran an authority over the hadith? And all the brothers would repeat was what was given to him. Oh no, but it's the hadith, and if you don't, you'll go to hell. So he said, well, take back the kufi. I'll leave my pants like where they are. And I think if I go in here, I will be stepping into hell. I'll leave. And he left. So this is the influence, again, of Satan getting in and tribalism. And we've been having a problem with tribalism, not only in Islam, but throughout all the Abrahamic faith, this breakdown, I'm this kind of Catholic. I'm this kind of Christian. I'm this kind of Jew. I'm this reforming one. I'm this kind of... So Islam is not have been unsubject to the same circumstances. I'm with this school of thought. I'm with the Maliki. I'm with the Hanbali. I'm with this. All of these things, the Prophet never heard or seen these things that they're talking about. You know, so that's why Imam Muhammad gave to us, and we didn't get that great value. He says, you are the newest Muslims on the planet. You're the newest Muslim on the planet. And your newity, your birth, has come after death. 400 years of enslavement that you have no real, you had no real culture to depend on to influence you, no language to depend on to influence you. All of that was stripped of you. So it was you tasted death, yet you still was alive. In flesh, but death you taste in your identity. Your identity was taken from you, stolen from you. You were reduced and promoted to be only an animal, so forth and so on. So you had no connection. So now, here you are, this is how the resurrection is. That you had a taste of death because you were totally disconnected as a human being from your past. No way to connect back. 400 years, no way to connect back. And now, Al-Islam comes to you in a way that is working on breathing life back into you, and finally you come and you get the word straight from the Prophet, straight from the Quran, and you were resurrected. So you're the newest baby born in Al-Islam here on the shores of America. And you're born with the Prophet calling the Adhan in your ear. That's what happened to us. Praise be to Allah. That's what happened to us. That's what makes us very unique and strong in simply saying, I hear you about Hadith, I hear you about this, but please, all I ask of you, the authority that the Prophet left, is the Prophet, is the Quran and the Prophet the authority in your life? Or is Maliki, Hanbali, the other schools of thoughts and other leaders, are they the ones, even the caliphs after the Prophet? They didn't receive the message. The Prophet got the message. So even when one of the caliphs who during the month of Ramadan, who decided, seeing everyone making their sunnah prayers, as the Prophet did, the Tadaweek prayers, the late night prayers only done in the month of Ramadan, even when he seen that and came in and said, well, let's put it together, which now makes it congregational, it's no longer sunnah because you're putting everybody together, the so-called hadiths and them tried to justify this. Well, if that's not what the Prophet did, how do you justify it? He did something, I ain't gonna say it wasn't good intentions, but it wasn't what the Prophet did. So what is the best? The one who got the message directly from God, or the one who was following and seeing something and say, well, I think it'd be better if we do this, but you didn't get to, but the Prophet gave you the reasoning as to why he didn't do it. It wasn't even left vacant because people started showing up when they knew he was in there praying. And then he didn't come back out. And then they finally asked him, why did he come back out? He said, because I thought you would make this a fad. You would make it that way. And they turned around and did it. And now everybody's held to that. And if you don't, then it's like, well, I ain't following who? Who I'm not following? I'm not following you. I'm not following the Caliph's decision. I'm following the decision of Muhammad the Prophet. But there's no compulsion. So if you want to do that, go right ahead. But you think you'll get the benefit that the Prophet got in his private quarters, praying to God directly, reading the words of God means, as I said it, when you're reading the words of the Quran, those are God's words. Those are not Muhammad's words. Those are God's words. So I'm going to put down the opportunity in preparing my flesh my spirit, my mind, which Ramadan requires us to do certain things, so that I can hear God direct without interference? Instead, I want to line up with you. No, I think I like this private time that God has given me. God has said, I'm going to give you a little private time here where me and you can talk. And here's what we're going to talk about. God gave me the subject matter. These 114 chapters. We're going to read this together, and I'm going to be your teacher. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who taught the prophet. This is what they're saying to us. But see, I can say this, and others look at me. I can say it because we're the newest Muslim on the planet, and we got it direct because of Imam W.D. Muhammad. And all of these scholars knew it. Those scholars who were sincere, they knew what happened with him, and they know there's nothing they can do. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as a shield and a protector, calling Islam the right thing, but knowing that he was basically trying to, like he said, clean us up and get us ready for the book to come, so that we would be ready to go once it came and came clear. And it was all made clear who would bring it to us too. There's 7 sons there. It was clear which one's going to do it. All this was done. There ain't no accident. You think God wasn't in this? So again, we're free men and women under the banner of Al-Islam. And we're not beholden to anyone else's school of thought. And they tried to pull that on Imam Muhammad, and he stopped that, shut that down right away. You know, no. You know, you're not going to put me in that classification. I'll give you, from my life experience, here's the Quran. And I'll give you my understanding of it as I seen the Prophet applied it. And now you can follow it or reject it. That's on you. But it worked for us. It took us from 0 to infinite numbers in terms of our thinking and our life. So this is a wonderful, wonderful thing. You know, so you can't argue it. You're not supposed to argue with ignorant people or unconscious people. You're not supposed to argue with them. And then, brother, hadith. And what section are you from? You from the section of the bogey dogies and the okie okies or yogi pokies? You know, are you from the whatever? And this is the whole thing with what happened with the Abrahamic faith. All these things broken out because I want this way and that way and this way and that way. And then almost became enemies to each other. Is that what we got going on? So how can that be under God? When now all of a sudden you both saying Islam, you both got the Quran, and but you're enemies to each other. That says something you didn't grab a hold of that did that. You got a hold of Satan's influence. You know. But I'd like to read this if it's okay, inshallah. And we can close out here. This is from Imam W. Muhammad. And almost really talking to what you're saying here. You know. He says, this is a subject matter looking at the consultation and census in Al-Islam. There is no clergy in Islam. That's number one. There is no clergy in Islam or Al-Islam in the Prophet and the Quran. They speak of the Muslim clergy, but there is no such thing as a Muslim clergy. If you really want to know how the Muslim society is supposed to be, all we have to do is see what it was in Prophet Muhammad's day. Here we go again. See what he did. See how he formed the society. That's the way it should be now. If we could see it, we would say, oh boy, this is really not formal. Not any particular classes. Muhammad, the Prophet, the prayers and peace be upon him, did away with all of that. Remember, before him, he was all kind of tribal situation. They fight for 100,000 years over shoelaces or something. You know, something ridiculous, in other words. He did away with those ritualistic formalities. He did away with class distinctions. He forbade that they form these orders that separate and elicit groups from the common people. They never happened. If you want to find the shura, and for instance, the consultative group or body, that's what that word means, today, How will you find it? It's a question the man puts to us. I'm asking a question, he says. Right now, if you want to find the shura now, you go and locate a group of imams or group of people who get together, and they're men all the time, particularly. They're men. They form the shura, and they are supposed to be learned in Islam. That's number one. They're supposed to be learned in the religion. But are they supposed to be at such and such address and in such and such city? The Imam says no. They are supposed to be known by the community for their knowledge. They don't belong to any group. They belong to Islam. He goes on, he says, he may be a doctor. He's got an office. He practices down the street from you. But he's known to have the great ability in Islam. People consult him, and he's called when they want to meet to discuss things because he has that knowledge. We're not supposed to be organized into 2, 4, or 6 men or 20 men. And they meet every so often, each month or something. No, that's not a shura. If the imams are meeting, they should have shura, consultation, for themselves and for their own interests. They're associated in a particular interest, but that's not shura. Very important. The shura is never in that narrow focus. The shura will always be in the best minds and best characters in the Muslim community, and it will include females. Who can say a woman is a great mind? Who can say a woman with a great mind, like the lady Aisha, may God be pleased with her, who was the wife of Prophet Muhammad? Who can say that she was not a part of the shura? He puts a question to us. So, the real shura will also include females. Now, when I read this, it took me right back to the moon sighting committee. And this is exactly what the imam was telling me. Do not let the smallness of a small group of imams who might meet on some concern, they might meet on the Muslim about the moon and what have you. But that group that will truly be sure should be the best of characters, the best of people, should include everyone, male and female, and the best of those among them to do what we need done. In this case was simply to look for the Hilal in the starting of the month of Ramadan and the ending. That's all the imams said. And now what you have, that small group of imams who don't have the best of character, by their activity shows it, they are working for disunity rather than the unity of the mutual consultation, allowing all the people in our community, all of those qualified to get on that phone line who can report what they've seen in the sky for determining, do we start Ramadan or do we end Ramadan? And they have went and got their own little clergy, their own little clique together, and have decided to go against what I don't even Muhammad say, because what Imam Muhammad is saying is what Muhammad the Prophet is saying, how you do this. So they want an exclusivity. You can have your local meeting with imams of what y'all want to do, but you're not the shura. The shura is inclusive of all the qualified persons, the minds and the character, the best of the minds, the best of the characters, to be able to come and look out for the broader perspective, not your little circle that you have where you give yourself titles as Northeast Regional Representative and the Southeast Regional Representative and all this stuff here that the Imam allows us to deal with for a time and try to get us to get on a bigger circle. So that's little local stuff. That's not natural. Seeing the moon is our natural perspective. It's bigger than your little local stuff, to where you want to claim that you little imams got together and what have you, and y'all did something, and everybody's supposed to follow you. You try to set up a hierarchy. The Imam said, no, that's not what we want. So this is a message to them. And for those of you who follow them and refuse to follow what Muhammad the Prophet did and what Imam Muhammad's given us, you know, and I was just a facilitator of what he spelled out, and it's right here. And you can find it in the books where I'm reading from. And can conclude this right now. The common essence of all people, Imam W. Muhammad continuing. To get where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, highly glorified as God above all things, wants us to go, we have to become as Adam when God made him. Adam alayhi salam, our first father, the father of humanity. And if you understand him from the Bible and from the Quran, he is a single soul, but he is a figure representing all people. For he is the common essence of all people. Their common essence that has been created and directed by God. The Bible speaks of Adam in the singular and in the plural concept, not just a singular concept, but a concept that is inclusive of all people, all mankind. The Quran speaks of him in the same way. He fell from the high position given to him by his Creator when he listened to the suggestion of the enemy of all mankind, the devil, the Satan, the Shaitan, or Shaitan, the Lucifer. All of those names you find in scriptures, and that's also in the Quran. He is given all of these names, again, the Satan, the Shaitan, the Lucifer. But the most important name you should remember is that he is the enemy of all mankind. So what is he? The Imam asks us as a question to all of us. Is he a man? The Imam answers a firm, no, he's not a man. He is the enemy of mankind. That is male and female. He is not a man. So what is he? He is fire. That is what he says to God in the Quran. He says, quote, I will not accept or submit to this ruler you want to put in the earth, a mortal you made from the earth. You made me better than he, you made me of fire, end of quote. And to really understand him, he is a fire that really gives off no smoke. What does that mean? It means he has nothing to repent for, as far as he's concerned. In his own mind, he thinks he has nothing to repent. So why should I burn and give off smoke? That's Satan putting the question. He says, I burn, but I do not give off anything. I do not give up anything. A self-contained fire burning on its own willpower. This is talking about Satan. And I'll conclude a little bit here. I'll continue with the Imam. The Imam says here, it says that, look in your own heart. Look in your own heart. He is really a big bigot, arrogant, boastful, and think he has every right to decide matters for the whole of mankind on this earth arbitrarily. And he does not have to consult anybody. Where are you looking for him? He's talking about Satan here. Are you looking for him somewhere? I can imagine somebody looking around for him, but the first place to look is in your own heart. That is where he wants to get. Anywhere you find a convincing picture resembling what I just told you of the description of Satan, be careful. Don't get involved there acting arbitrarily, being boastful, thinking yourself more important than everything else, and making decisions without consulting decent persons who qualified to contribute to whatever plan we have for our community or for our world. Human community cannot live alone anymore. Continuing with Imam W. Muhammad, the last part. Include others when you want to plan the future for mankind or the future for your community. Consult others. In Al-Islam, the believers are those who conduct their affairs by shura bainahum, in parentheses, consulting with each other. They conduct their affairs by consulting those of us who qualify as people of good character. I'm going to repeat this. Who qualifies as people of good character, knowledge, and experience. We consult them. We put our heads together. We don't go alone. So this is the future, and this is the time for that future. A time not just for leaders, but for nations to put their heads together and agree that we cannot go it alone. A time to put their heads together when they want to plan life on this earth for a community of people, because the human community cannot live alone anymore. End of quote, Imam W. Muhammad. Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Alhamdulillah. These are the answers for all that's going on right now in society. All of these things with the wars here, and this one here, shortage of this, and all this false inflation that they are making, and what have you. Tell you it's inflation and tell you at the same time that they have paid off oil producers not to produce the oil. But then put it out there on the thing like, oh no, it's the president's fault. Wait, didn't you just say that this is happening, the gas prices, because those who produce the oil is not doing it so the price can go up and they make more money? So the president, I didn't know he was no oil baron. How can you say it's him? But it shows the diabolical scheme and how they disrespect the intellect and intelligence. They think they've done enough damage to our minds and our ability to think through these things that they can say any daggone thing and we will run with it. And for the most part, they're pretty much right. As you said about the brother, and you asking you, well, what sect do you come from? What sect is he at this building? You know, Muslim. You know, even the imam, for a long time, they tried to say, well, what's the name of your organization? He said Muslim. So he said Muslim. These were outside folks, Christians and other ones he was dealing with. Well, we look for a name of organization, and you know, again, pushing this stuff. Well, we Muslims. We're all Muslims. Well, no, I mean, who we wanted to call the name of the group. What we call you? Muslim. He kept telling them. And after a while, it's okay. Listen, I represent the ministry of Imam W. Muhammad. So my ministry, you need the name for my ministry, but it's still Muslim. you know. But that was to show the world how once you think intelligent, you look for me and say, well, I'm Muslim. I mean, no, but which really are you? It's a Muslim. You know, like every baby born, Muslim. And I happen to be one of the newest baby born on the planet Earth who's Muslim. You know, and I come from a situation that brought me here because I had a taste of death. And as the Imam was explaining how I say about taste of death in the Quran, saying if you tasting death, that means you ain't dead yet. You damn near dead, but you ain't dead. You know, and said damn near dead because you've been damned in the situation you're in where you tasting death. You've been damned, it means you've been blocked up. You damn something, you're blocking it up. So as an African American descendant from former slavery, we were damned up in a circumstance. We were damned, a dam was built and blocked us in, and we couldn't see back. We couldn't see forward. We were damned in. We was corralled like animals into a situation. Huh? That's what happened. So no, so this way, now freedom has come, and the dam has been broken down. I'm no longer damned no more because I say La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. I witness to God and God only. He's the only one that broke this damn thing down and got me out of there alive. And I wasn't dead all the way, but I was. When they looked in there, they said, "Well, Isa ibn Maryam, Jesus Christ, son of Mary, can you come here? Because my brother has died." And Jesus said, "Well, where is he?" He said, "Where you laid him down at? Because if you think he dead, he must be stretched out somewhere. Where you laid him down to give you." And they took him there, the Marys, and took him there and said, "Hey, isn't he? Look, he ain't dead. He just has the appearance of death, but he ain't dead. All I got to do is call out to him in the name of the one who gives life and takes life. In the name of God, Lazarus, get up. You mighty human creature, get up off that ground you crawling on like that. Get up, man." You know, huh? What? Huh? What? So up, man. Get connected like I told the sister out there that morning. She said, "Give me 15 cents. I said, "And God has given you the right language. Though you don't know it, you will know it now because you just called the right person. When you said, hey, hey, I didn't answer you. When you tone it down, say, hey, hello. The human folk broke loose. And you said, you think you just came with yourself? You have 15 cents? I said, yes, I do, and so do you. All you got to do is put your 5 senses back together. And you're a woman, you're a mother, you're a grandmother, you're a great woman. And because of that, that 1 sense, that 6th sense is intuitive, and you have it more than I do. And if you wait here a minute, I'll come back and give you something else." And she waited out there. I went inside because she caught me going to the door. I went inside. I was getting what happened. God is greater. You know, and I went inside, and I been sitting, how much money I gave it? I had $3 that I had that change from. I said, well, this is what I'm going to give her. And 3 means a lot, too. So when I came down, looking, she said, I'm here. She was, you know, not wasn't it? I'm here. And I gave it to her. I said, here. I said, I got gas for 15 cents, but I can give you $3. You know, without saying that, I can give you knowledge, freedom, and understanding. But 15 cents you got. And that was it. You know, I had to go inside and make my prayer because, you know, that stuff, you know, it's powerful when you understand what you're saying and it register. It registered with her. And I seen her this morning. This morning? I think I seen her again, but she ain't come that way near me. No, she didn't. I seen her this morning. I seen her. She was over across the street. Then she seen the car. Now they know the car when she, you know, I changed up on them, but they know the car and pulling that space. So I seen her. I thought she was gonna come over. She went around the corner quick. Now y'all know her. She knows she don't do that. The word of God is powerful. So alhamdulillah, thank you all. Thank you, Sister Marsha and Brother Philip, for engaging. We went a little longer than we should have, or that I wanted to go in. We thank you. Sometimes we get to talk with each other. I forget y'all out there looking. And it's so comfortable, but praise be to God. We pray to God always that what we explain and what we try our best to give to you, research for yourself what we say. You study for your own self and what have you. We're giving you our life perspective from living this religion, loving this religion, and how it has empowered us to move forward no matter what. And we don't fear anything to block us from doing good. There's not enough authority in Satan's hand to block us from doing good. He can only invite you to what is wrong, but he can't make you do the wrong. He never be given that authority. So all you got to do is stay on the Sirat al-Mustaqim, stay on the upright path, and reach out horizontal and spread the good news. Be the good news bringers, and that's what we try to do through the Thinker, to bring good news. All ain't lost. All ain't nowhere near lost. Are there some things lost? Yes, they are. That's because you choose to be lost. But if you don't want to be lost, all you got to do is turn in earnest to the one who created you and gave you and I everything we got. And what we don't have, we don't need. But he gave us everything we got, and there's more there to be gotten. So we thank you. We ask that God's peace be upon you and forgive us our errors or mistakes in our presentation. And we thank Brother Philip and Sister Marsha for their questions, and we look forward to meeting you again on another day, on a day that will be better than today's day. And we pray God's peace be unto you, your family, your relatives, to our country, to our state, to the world. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
You smile, I want you smile. I love you smile, I love you smile. Why don't you smile? We've been thinking about some positive changes. We need some positive changes. Thinking about some positive. Let us beware of false prophet, for they shall come in a sheep clothing, but beneath them are marvelous of wolves. So watch them green snake in a green grass. Why tell them say, some are vampires, some are hooligans, some are kleptomanians, some are idolaters, some are vampires, all are vampires, some are hooligans, some are kleptomanians, some are idolaters.